48 hours ago, something happened in the unseen realm. And here, the unsettling truth, most people will never realize it happened. They'll go on with their routines, scrolling, sleeping, laughing, completely unaware that heaven shifted positions, authority was reassigned, and spiritual boundaries were crossed. But you felt it. Maybe it came as sudden restlessness. Maybe confusion without a reason. Maybe emotions rising out of nowhere. Or maybe you noticed people around you acting strange, agitated, exposed, uncomfortable, as if something invisible was pressing against their spirit. That was not imagination. That was the aftershock. Because 48 hours ago, a line was drawn in the spirit, and when that line was crossed, heaven did not stay silent. A divine filter was activated. Separation began. And only those aligned with the Most High could sense the disturbance. This message is not for everyone. It never was. If your heart is not aligned with truth, discipline, and spiritual awareness, this will sound exaggerated, even foolish. But if you're still here, if something inside you is leaning forward instead of pulling away, then understand this clearly. You did not find this message, it found you. The attack that made no sense. The tension that came without warning. The injustice that felt unprovoked. The sudden shift in how people treated you. It wasn't random. It wasn't personal. It was spiritual. What happened 48 hours ago exposed things that were hidden, triggered reactions that couldn't be controlled, and forced masks to fall, and now the people who watched your suffering, the ones who stayed silent, even the ones who participated, are feeling something they can't explain. A quiet fury. A deep unrest. A spiritual discomfort. Because when a chosen one is touched without cause, heaven responds not loudly at first but precisely. And this video will explain why the attack backfired, why people are reacting now, and why your elevation has already begun, even if you don't see it yet. Before we go any further, pause for 1 second. If your spirit feels this, if you know this message is speaking directly to you, type one number in the comments that you feel drawn to right now. 777, 333, or 999. Then like this video, because this message needs to reach the ones who are waking up. Subscribe and share it because someone you know is feeling this shift and doesn't understand it yet. This is not just a video. It's confirmation. And what heaven started 48 hours ago cannot be reversed. This was never meant to be received by everyone. It couldn't be. What happened required a certain frequency to perceive it. 48 hours ago, a separation began not in communities or families or workplaces, but in awareness. Those aligned with the Most High felt something before they could explain it. Those who were not aligned felt nothing and moved on as usual. There was no judgment in that, just divine order unfolding exactly as it was meant to. Timing was precise, neither rushed nor delayed. The activation happened when it could no longer be postponed, and the response you're experiencing now is proof that you were within range of the signal when it was released. What's important to understand is that you didn't choose this message first. The message found you after the event had already occurred. You are not early and you are not late. You are right on time because your awareness is catching up to a shift your spirit already registered. That's why it may feel familiar and unfamiliar at the same time, like remembering something you didn't know you forgot. The reason you're still here, still listening, still reading is because something in you responded automatically when heaven moved. Not consciously, not logically, but instinctively. Over the last 48 hours, many people noticed a restlessness they couldn't name. Sleep felt lighter or disrupted. Thoughts felt louder. Emotions surfaced without clear triggers. A sense of urgency appeared alongside confusion, as if something needed attention but hadn't yet introduced itself. That wasn't anxiety for no reason, and it wasn't coincidence. It was a vibration released by the event itself. When heaven initiates movement, aligned spirits feel it before the mind can translate it into language. Your inner stirring wasn't random. It was evidence that you were targeted by awareness, not by chance. Some people try to explain this away with external factors, stress, routine changes, social noise. But the timing is too precise and the consistency across different lives is too clear. The engagement you feel toward this moment, the pull to understand what shifted, even the act of staying present instead of scrolling past, functions like a confirmation code. It's not about numbers on a screen, it's about resonance. Awareness recognizes awareness. This moment isn't proving coincidence, it's proving connection. What followed the shift, however, confused many people even more. Almost immediately after the event, an unjust attack appeared. For some, it looked like sudden opposition. For others, it felt like misunderstanding, resistance, criticism, or unexpected tension. What made it unsettling was that it didn't make sense even to the ones initiating it. The logic didn't add up. The timing felt off. The reasons sounded hollow. That's because the cause was never human. 48 hours ago, spiritual order was disturbed, and when that happens, reactions occur before explanations form. The attack wasn't planned the way people plan things. It was triggered. Authority was detected before it was understood. Something in the unseen recognized that your position had shifted, and it responded instinctively. That's why the response came without clarity, without strategy, and without coherence. It wasn't about what you said or did, it was about what you now carried. The attack was a reaction to the event, not to you personally, even though it felt personal in the moment. What's even more telling is that for many, the targeting began before they themselves realized anything had happened. 48 hours ago, your spiritual position changed first. Awareness followed later. Darkness, however, senses elevation instantly. It doesn't wait for announcements, it reacts to movement. So the moment your position shifted, the response began, even while your conscious mind was still catching up. That's why the confusion felt disproportionate. You were responding to an effect without yet knowing the cause. This is where many people misunderstand the nature of attacks. They assume opposition means failure or wrongdoing, when in reality, immediate resistance often signals promotion. After the event, attacks escalated quickly and they came without clear cause. Confusion was deployed almost as a tool designed to delay realization, to keep you focused on surface-level explanations instead of deeper truth. But the event was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to expose what had already changed. The pressure you felt was not punishment, it was confirmation. When light intensifies, contrast becomes unavoidable. The attack was never about your actions because your actions were not the trigger. Your becoming was. Discipline, purity, and alignment don't threaten darkness until they mature into authority. 48 hours ago, something in you crossed that threshold. Light didn't just exist in you, it intensified. And intensified light always reveals what has been hiding. As a result of the shift, something else happened that many found uncomfortable but couldn't articulate. Your presence started to feel heavier to others. Conversations changed tone. Reactions became sharper. Silence from certain people grew louder. That wasn't because you became arrogant or distant. The event turned you into a mirror. When contrast increases, people are forced to see themselves more clearly, and not everyone is ready for that reflection. Hidden envy surfaced because unfulfilled potential was exposed. People weren't reacting to you, they were reacting to what your alignment reminded them of. Abandoned callings don't like to be awakened. Suppressed purpose resists exposure. The violence of the reaction often reveals the depth of what was avoided. Your presence became unbearable not because you did anything wrong, but because the event amplified what was already there. This is why it's important to understand that the real battle was never human. Faces may have been involved, words may have been spoken, situations may have unfolded, but the operating force behind them was spiritual. 48 hours ago, the event exposed the spirit that had been operating quietly beneath the surface. Once exposed, it attempted disruption not through reason but through reaction. The goal was preemptive, to shake you before you could fully realize what had changed. Yet here you are, still present, still aware, still drawn forward. That alone tells you the attempt failed. The aftershock you're experiencing now is not meant to frighten you but to orient you. It's helping your awareness align with a shift your spirit already accepted. You are not losing stability, you are gaining clarity. And clarity always feels destabilizing at first because it rearranges what you thought you understood. What's unfolding now is not the end of something but the continuation of a process already set in motion. The pressure, the exposure, the reactions, and the inner stirring are all connected to the same source. Heaven moved, alignment responded, resistance reacted, and awareness is now catching up. You were not overlooked and you were not mistaken for someone else. You are here because when the signal was released 48 hours ago, something in you answered before you even knew what the question was. And that response is still unfolding. What many didn't expect is that the very thing meant to silence you became the mechanism that revealed everything. After the event, the attack didn't just fail, it reversed direction. What was intended to stay hidden was pulled into the open. Motives surfaced. Patterns became obvious. People who thought they were unseen realized they were being watched the entire time. The pressure of the moment caused masks to slip, not because anyone forced them off, but because the environment no longer supported deception. Heaven didn't need to argue or explain. It simply applied light, and light has a way of telling the truth without raising its voice. Intentions that were carefully concealed could no longer remain subtle. Words spoken casually suddenly carried weight. Actions that once blended into the background stood out sharply. Even silence became revealing. Those who observed quietly, assuming neutrality would protect them, found themselves exposed by their lack of response. The injustice that may have felt private or isolating was quietly spotlighted, not for spectacle but for record. Nothing had to be exaggerated. What was already there became visible simply because the event shifted the angle of perception. Heaven's response was not delayed. It didn't wait for the situation to escalate or for damage to be obvious. The moment restraint was tested, obedience activated defense. This is something many people misunderstand. Divine intervention doesn't always look like dramatic interruption. Often it looks like containment, redirection, and timing so precise that by the time you realize what could have happened, you're already standing safely on the other side of it. Within hours of the event, movement occurred. Not loud movement, not announced movement, but decisive movement that changed outcomes before they fully formed. This is why everything suddenly felt fast and intense. After the event, time itself seemed compressed. Conversations moved quickly. Situations escalated rapidly. Decisions felt urgent. That wasn't chaos, it was acceleration. 48 hours ago, you crossed territory that altered your pace. Darkness lost access it once relied on, and the attack that followed was not a sustained campaign but a final attempt. When access is cut off, resistance spikes briefly before it disappears. What you felt was not ongoing opposition, but a last grasp at influence. Your destiny carries weight, and weight always attracts resistance. The event confirmed influence that may have gone unchallenged before. Heavy callings don't announce themselves, they reveal themselves through the intensity of what tries to stop them. Opposition increases in proportion to impact. That's why the resistance felt disproportionate to the situation. It wasn't reacting to circumstances, it was reacting to confirmation. Something ancient recognized something significant, and that recognition triggered urgency. What you didn't see during those 48 hours matters just as much as what you did. There were things intercepted before they reached you. Spiritual weapons were stopped mid-course. Words that could have caused deeper damage were softened, delayed, or redirected. Plans that seemed certain lost momentum without explanation. Protection activated without announcement, without credit, and without requiring your awareness. This is the nature of heaven's silent defense. It doesn't need to be noticed to be effective. That unseen intervention explains why certain people felt uneasy after the event without knowing why. Consciences were stirred. A restlessness emerged that couldn't be blamed on you directly. Fury awakened in some because pressure touched places they preferred to keep dormant. Others felt compelled to watch, to observe, to pay attention more closely than before. Witnesses were being prepared not by instruction but by atmosphere. When the environment changes, people respond even if they don't understand the reason. The lingering feeling many can't shake now isn't about guilt or fear alone, it's conviction. The event applied pressure to hearts, and under pressure truth rises. Spiritual records opened, not in a dramatic sense but in awareness. People suddenly remembered things they'd avoided thinking about. Neutrality became uncomfortable. Silence felt like agreement. Indifference felt exposed. When alignment increases in one place, it challenges neutrality everywhere else. Darkness overreached because the event forced exposure. What could once operate quietly no longer could. Contrast became undeniable. The difference between discipline and compromise, between alignment and avoidance, became visible without being explained. Overreach happens when pressure is applied to something that depends on darkness to function. It reacts too strongly, too quickly, revealing itself in the process. Authority shifted during the event, and sensitive people felt it immediately. The atmosphere changed. Rooms felt different. Conversations carried a charge. Even digital spaces seemed heavier or sharper. This wasn't imagination. Power was reassigned not publicly but effectively. When authority shifts, those who relied on the old arrangement feel destabilized. They sense reversal before they can articulate it, and that sensation often expresses itself as agitation or anger. That anger, however, isn't really about you. It's self-confrontation. The event revealed inner weakness, and weakness doesn't like to be seen. Discipline exposes compromise simply by existing. Alignment highlights misalignment without accusation. The reaction you witnessed was not an assessment of your worth, but a response to an internal reckoning triggered by your presence after the shift. At the same time, something quieter began happening. Support started emerging from unexpected places. People you didn't anticipate stepped forward. Words of affirmation arrived without prompting. Protective instincts activated in others, sometimes subtly, sometimes clearly. This wasn't coincidence. Spiritual insight was released, allowing people to perceive more accurately who needed to be defended and why. When alignment increases, hearts reposition themselves naturally. A boundary was crossed during the event, and that boundary matters. Protected territory was marked. What once could be accessed casually now carries consequence. Judgment pressure increased not as punishment but as enforcement of order. When territory is claimed, trespass becomes visible. The shift wasn't about exclusion, it was about clarity, and clarity changes how everything functions from that point forward. What you're experiencing now is the settling of that shift. The reversal, the acceleration, the defense, the conviction, and the emerging support are all part of the same movement. Nothing is random. Nothing is wasted. The event didn't just initiate change, it organized it. And the weight you feel isn't burden, it's responsibility taking shape. After the event, something subtle but undeniable began to shift inside you. It wasn't dramatic at first. It felt more like a weight quietly lifting, the kind you didn't fully realize you'd been carrying until it was gone. Thoughts became clearer. Breathing felt deeper. The constant inner tension softened. This was not emotional relief alone, it was intervention. The event opened what can only be described as a court of heaven, where matters that had lingered unresolved were finally addressed. What you're feeling now is the outcome of that movement, not imagination, not wishful thinking, but alignment settling into place. Clarity is forming because confusion no longer has legal ground to remain. Peace is emerging because conflict was never meant to be permanent. This isn't revenge playing out in slow motion, it's justice restoring order. Exposure happened not to humiliate, but to correct imbalance. Alignment is being restored where distortion once existed. When justice moves, it doesn't shout, it reorganizes. And reorganization always brings calm after disruption. One of the most misunderstood parts of this process is loss. After the event, certain connections weakened or disappeared altogether. Some conversations ended abruptly. Some doors closed without explanation. At first glance, it felt like something was taken from you. But removal was not punishment, it was protection. What could not elevate with you could not remain attached to you. Conflict served as redirection, pushing you out of spaces that would have limited what was unfolding next. Nothing valuable was lost. Only what could not go where you're going was released. That's why the story is revering now. Voices that once accused or doubted are losing volume and influence. Their words carry less weight even to themselves. Meanwhile, favor is becoming visible in quiet but undeniable ways. Opportunities appear without struggle. Timing aligns more easily. You don't have to explain yourself as much as before. The narrative is no longer being written by opposition, it's being rewritten by truth. With the reversal comes restoration. What the event unlocked wasn't just external opportunity but internal alignment. Peace is returning first because peace is the foundation of everything else. From that peace, opportunity flows naturally, not forced or frantic. Alignment deepens, making decisions feel cleaner and more confident. You're not chasing outcomes anymore, you're responding to openings that meet you where you are. At the same time, those who once relied on influence over you feel exposed. Their control is collapsing because it was never sustainable. Influence that depends on manipulation fades when clarity enters the room. They sense the shift even if they can't articulate it. The unease they feel now mirrors the freedom you're experiencing. One is rising as the other dissolves. Character has been revealed in ways that words never could. Masks came off without confrontation. Envy showed itself through subtle resistance. Silence revealed where loyalty was never real. False alignment became obvious not through accusation but through absence. The event didn't force anyone to show who they were, it simply removed the conditions that allowed pretending to continue. This is divine reorganization in motion. The loyal are being promoted naturally, not because they demanded recognition, but because their consistency became visible. Pretenders are being removed without drama, simply losing relevance and access. It's not harsh, it's efficient. Order is being restored based on truth rather than appearance. You may have noticed a shift in people's hearts as well. Some who once felt distant are reaching out with sincerity. Guilt is rising in unexpected places, not to condemn but to awaken conscience. Compassion is stirring where indifference once lived. This isn't emotional instability, it's awakening. Hearts are turning because the environment no longer supports numbness. As hearts change, environments follow. Wrong alliances are breaking without you needing to intervene. Truth is establishing itself quietly, reshaping spaces that once felt hostile or stagnant. You don't have to fight for this change. The event already set it in motion. You're simply witnessing the ripple effect. What's important to recognize now is that this isn't recovery. Recovery implies returning to a previous state. This is elevation. Authority has increased, not restored. Favor is activated, not repaired. You're not going back to who you were before the pressure. You're stepping into who the pressure prepared you to become. Confirmation signs are appearing gently but consistently. Fear is dissolving not because circumstances are perfect, but because confidence has replaced uncertainty. Direction is sharpening. Decisions that once felt overwhelming now feel straightforward. You're not guessing as much anymore, you're discerning. Your voice is changing too. Words carry more weight even when you say less. Discernment has sharpened, allowing you to speak with precision rather than emotion. Influence is expanding naturally. People listen differently now, not because you demand attention, but because clarity commands it. This rise will be seen not for validation, but as testimony. Elevation speaks for itself. What follows all of this is a deep, settled peace. Not excitement, not adrenaline, but stability. Fear has been neutralized at its root. Authority feels internal now, not something you have to prove. Alignment has been sealed. You're no longer questioning whether you're in the right place, you know. And even now, this is not the end. What happened was initiation. Separation has been finalized and the turnaround is active. The event continues to unfold through your choices, your presence, and your alignment. What began 48 hours ago is still moving forward, and you are moving with it. 48 hours ago, heaven sealed a decision that shook the unseen realm. What you felt was real, what you survived was not accidental, and what's unfolding now cannot be stopped. The attack exposed truth, the silence revealed hearts, and your endurance unlocked elevation. If this message spoke to you, don't ignore the confirmation. Like this video, share it with someone who's awakening, and comment the number your spirit aligns with: 777, 333, or 999. This wasn't just a video. It was a signal.